Hi, today we're going to introduce to you three of our wonderful support group leaders. We're going to actually start off with Mohammed, and I'm going to give you a little bio of Mohammed. And to some of you, I'm sure his face is familiar. He's been here before. Okay. So, Mohammed, Mohammed, may I call you Mo? Is that fine?
You may.
So used to that. So Muhammad Mo, as we know him, is a bipolar activist as well as a support group leader who is passionate about mental health, education, and awareness. He's dedicated to raising the understanding of bipolar and creating supportive spaces for those affected. So Mo, thank you for joining us today. Okay.
You're
And
welcome,
then we have
Atika. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. So, Mo, just to ask you a question and get this started, for many people that's living with bipolar, what can you say as to why joining a support group would be so important?
For me personally, I didn't think much of a support group before. I didn't think there was value in it. I didn't think it was going to change much for me. But it's actually become my safe space, and it's become the first space that I go when I want to speak about something. It kind of becomes your home because you have about, I don't know, I have about, say, 30 to 40 people on average, and that you all share a very similar kind of trajectory, lifeline, journey, things that you go through. And when you hear other people's gone through those same things and they struggling to cope with, whether it's family, whether it's work, whatever it is, relationships, you start to realize how powerful it is, though.
Wow. Thank you, Mo. Thank you so much for that. And now moving on to the lovely Natasha. Natasha is a foreign trained medical graduate with a strong passion for mental health. Natasha is also a support group leader, and she's launched a trauma support group in collaboration with SEDEC. Okay. And withdrawing from her own experience with regards to mental illness, she aims to empower individuals as well as communities with hope, with guidance, and with meaningful support. She continues to grow in this field through life coaching and mental health first aid training, and is a proud partner of supportgroups.com, a global mental health platform. So, Natasha, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Anita. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great. Maybe, Natasha, maybe you can share with us a bit about your journey living with bipolar and what does it look like for you, like just on a day to day?
My journey living with bipolar mood disorder has been much of a roller coaster, to say the least. My journey started from a very young age, and I only sought out medical intervention when I started university. So, from day to day, as you can see, I'm quite anxious. I deal with anxiety on an everyday basis. Um, I am fortunate enough, though, to be in a space where I can say I'm euthymic, so my mood is stable. So it's been a journey in a sense where there's been a lot of up and downs. I've been through a lot. I've seen a lot of professionals that helped, and all of them helped in a certain way along the line. I learned more about myself through every inpatient treatment I received, every outpatient treatment I received, as well as support groups have been meaningful in my life. So through this journey, I've gained a lot of skills that have equipped me to function quite normally on day-to-day life.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Natasha. And I'm just coming back to your support group. You run a trauma support group. So, how has your experience with bipolar influenced how you support others within your group?
So when it comes to living with a mental health condition, I think when other people who are sharing a similar struggle are within your radius, you feel the struggle because you've been there. I can actually acknowledge at a deeper level without that person actually having to say anything what they might be experiencing. And when people feel safe enough to share, I think that's where a lot of growth comes in. Growth comes with community, with speaking openly, with realizing that, hey, I'm struggling with this, but so is this person. And it may look different, but it's the same struggle. And the hope that can be given throughout a support group is immense. That sense of family that Mo mentioned is so important. And finding a sense of a solid support structure, that makes the world of a difference. And it helps you get towards recovery much more sooner.
Thank you so much, Natasha. And like Mo said, and like you said, I just hear so much about the trust and the family and the support and all of that, just making people feel comfortable knowing that they're not alone. And the support group is a safe space. So for whatever mental health illness you're suffering with, etc. So thank you for sharing that. And Mo, just coming back to you. Just a question, right? What role do you feel support groups play in helping people stay motivated? And with regards to treatment and self-care, what do you think is important there?
So like I said, it's the first place I go. It's the first place I turn to. When I maybe don't get something that I feel I need from the group, it does make it more difficult because then I question myself if those around me are, I don't know, not giving me maybe advice that I feel or support, sorry, that is needed. Um, like in the sense that maybe two people are saying two different things in a specific case. Um, I would generally go with the person that I obviously trust more in terms of the group. Maybe they've been there longer. Maybe they got a certain view on life. But generally, I would still consider everyone's viewpoint. And I feel like in a support group, most of the time, like I'm going to say 95% of the time, the feedback that you're getting from your members are always pure with intention. It's always for your best interest, even though one seems maybe slightly less than the other one, but it always comes from a good place. And this is why I will continue to advocate for support groups for as long as I'm around, I think, is that you don't get that in your normal setting. You don't get that in your family environment. You don't get that with your friends. You don't get that with your colleagues. Yes, you do here and there, but it's not something that's found everywhere. And people don't understand how invaluable that sort of support is because it's always from a good place, almost always.
Thank you, Mo, for that. And just listening to that, it's like, hearing other people's lived experiences and stories and how they've moved and how they've grown and how they've changed and overcome challenges. So from what I hear you say, that actually helps within the group to for people to grow through lived experience. And it's amazing. It's amazing how you talk about support groups. So
Yeah, yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like chances are the issue or anything that you ever bring up in the support group, 9 out of 10 times there's a chance that it was mentioned or experienced in the group, and that's why it's so valuable the feedback that you get. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And Natasha, maybe just one more question from you. Maybe from your perspective, what makes a support group truly effective in terms of healing?
In terms of healing, I think the most important part is having a sense of safety within the group. Having someone who's a leader who can hold that space and relay psychoeducation in a way that is effective, where you have people who listen to you and use those skills that you teach on an everyday basis and come back and tell you how the progress has been made. It's through speaking to each other, acknowledging where you're at in that journey and seeing you progress forward. It's amazing to hold that space and to see people grow and to show compassion towards those who are really struggling, and let them know that it's not as isolating as it seems. Yes, I think what Mo mentioned is so important. I mean, trying to find that support outside of that support group is really tough for some people. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have family and friends who can understand what you're going through. So, in a support group, it's an environment where everyone has a similar shared struggle, and that brings people together. Struggle literally brings people together. So I think it's great. It's great to be part of a group of people that can share their experiences, learn from each other, and find a way to move forward.
Wow. Natasha and Mo, just listening to all this, everything that you have to say about support groups, it's just overwhelms my heart. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to ask like a question for someone watching today who may be struggling with a bipolar disorder, but they feel hesitant to maybe reach out, like you say, that that support group offers that space. So if someone's feeling hesitant and want to reach out though, what would you like to tell them about joining a support group, maybe?
I would like to tell you that that's the first step. The first step is reaching out, and there's no embarrassment. There's a lot of vulnerability in reaching out, but with vulnerability comes immense strength. And by taking that step forward, you are telling yourself that, you know what, I'm worthy of this. I'm worthy to lead a life that is truly worth living. And I can make it through whatever obstacle comes my way. And I have a group of people who are going to cheer me on through the hardest moments and through the most moments that need to be celebrated as well. It's those small wins that people recognize within the group that make it so invaluable.
Wow. Appreciate that, Natasha. And Mo, is there anything you'd like to add on to what Natasha just said?
You know what, eh? I'm gonna go with I think we've been in some of the darkest, deepest, loneliest places as on the depression side. What do you have to lose? I think after a while, this was the approach I took, and I didn't end up in a specifically bipolar disorder group initially. It was just in a general group, and even this group, I met a few people. We started a side group. I started making us. We started meeting up for coffee once in a while, once every 2 weeks. And these random people that I came across, like they literally became like my best friends in a way. And I feel that if you're open to just giving it a chance, like just, you know what? And at the beginning, a lot of new support group members, they just sit in on the call. They don't necessarily plan on participating. They feel too shy. They feel this is a new space. How can I just open up about my most private, deepest, basically happenings in my life. And after a session or two, they realize, oh my word, these people are almost the same as me in terms of my condition. Why wouldn't I support? Why wouldn't I share my story and my journey over here? And once you allow yourself that and you allow yourself to be open, the what you can receive is almost endless in terms of support and people. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Mohammed, for answering that and for adding it. It's just amazing to all our audience out there as well, knowing what are support groups, how it's helped so many people. And if anyone does want to join, please think about it. Know that you're not alone. There is help. And I just want to say to Mo and Natasha as well, thank you guys for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. And if there's anything you'd like to end with, please.
Natasha, you can go first. I'm thinking.
I'm also thinking, I think a misconception a lot of people have is that living with any mental health condition is about willpower, that you can just snap out of it. Well, it's not. And I think acknowledging this and letting people know by educating them on what mental illness really entails, be it family members, friends, or even yourself, can help you gain a bit of perspective of how to manage these symptoms. And it's not just symptoms, they are psychological and emotional aspects that come into play as well. That's where support groups come in, where you feel heard, where you can voice what is troubling you and what's been making you feel excited or happy during the week. So please feel free to join. It will be really a great honor to have you part of our groups.
Thank you, Natasha. Mo?
I'm gonna go with sure did I really lose my train of thought? But I think like I'm gonna go back to like you have nothing to lose. I also want to say one very important thing is that no one is going to walk this journey for you. Absolutely no one in this world. And as scary and as daunting as that sounds, it's the reality of it. You're going to have moments on your journey that your brother's not there, or your spouse is not there, or your partner's not there, or your mom's not there, and you might lose someone along the way. And it's so important for you to take responsibility for your mental health, and this is why something like a support group gives you that crutch to kind of fall back into and onto. And I mean, generally, at least there's going to be a couple of people in that support group and out of that five, there'll be one that will reply to you. And I think that's what's so important, just touching on and moving forward, is that when you have that little bit, tiny little bit to hold on to, it becomes enough. And one of these days, it will become almost too much, and and that support will overwhelm you, and that love and that care from the people will be so much that you will almost feel like you don't need anyone else in your life, but you do. So every week I used to hold on. I felt sometimes like I was holding on for dear life if I didn't make that support group, but I found a way to make it, and I found a way to talk and to get mine. I mean, I love talking. I always need to get out like a couple of 10,000 words every day, probably, and that's just how I am. But a support group just gives you hope all the time, and it makes you grateful for the state that you are in, and it makes you grateful for how far you've come. And even when you do fall down, it makes you grateful again to strive with hope for the hope of getting up again and moving on. I think for me that is more powerful than anything else. And I will never stop advocating for that and for education and awareness around mental health, because it is, if not the most sad, neglected part of our health sector. And that is the most heartbreaking, though.
Well, thank you so much for sharing such insight, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much for all the input, the information, the care and support that you've showed to us today. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, God.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you.
Today, we have with us the lovely Mariana. I'm just going to go through a little bit of Mariana's bio. Mariana is a support group leader at SEDAC. She's also a 57-year-old married woman. She's a mother of three daughters. How lucky. And she's also living with bipolar disorder. Mariana is also the owner of Karma Wellness. She's a mental health wellness coach, and she does specialized exercise, or she's a specialized exercise trainer and a massage therapist. So not only is she only a support group leader, she's also a speaker and a writer. So to welcome you, Mariana, thank you so much for joining us today. And all I can say is we appreciate you being here. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anita. It's always a pleasure to be here. Lovely to support the cause.
Okay, thank you, Mariana. Mariana, with it being Bipolar Awareness Month, and I just want to speak to you about this. I know that you running a support group. Would you like to maybe just tell us why you actually started the support group?
Well, I think my journey with bipolar has had a huge impact on my decision. I'm very outspoken and a fierce advocate for mental illness. I think there was so much stigmatization, and to a certain extent, there still is. and people are sort of left on their own. They lack the support of people who also suffer from the illness. And I've just found that being able to communicate and share experiences with people also living with the illness makes it more manageable. It's less daunting because you're suddenly aware that in our scope of illness, there are others. And they feel, often the language we use is exactly the same. I feel like this, I feel very low, I feel very manic, or I feel such and such, and it resonates with one another. So yeah, it's inspired to support and break stigma and create sort of cohesive community groups.
Okay. Mariana, thanks for that. And with your support groups, for someone that might feel uncomfortable in talking about how they feel, how has that benefited the support group? So, for example, if someone's very silent, if they're quiet, if they're uncomfortable, how do you actually get them stimulated within your groups?
Well, firstly, the welcome is important, and I just say I'm very proud of you for being so brave. It's not easy to step out of your comfort zone. I know that it's frightening to firstly admit to your illness, and secondly to speak out. And there's no pressure on you to speak today at all. If you wish to just sit, that's great. If you wish to share, it's totally up to you. And then we always start with a mental wellness check. We do a weather report. So I'll also introduce myself and say that I live with bipolar, and having lived with bipolar for many years, I've managed to really mess my life up and then managed to really fix it up. Just to set them at ease that you don't have to be anything other than yourself. I explain confidentiality, which is very, very important. And then we generally go around the room and we say how our weather was, how we're feeling, what we're struggling with. And obviously I ask the new member towards the end, and I'll just say, would you like to share anything? Would you like to share your experience of your diagnosis? And then it's all left in their court. And generally by that time, I think everyone I've ever had join the group has loosened up and feels confident and included enough to share.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Mariana. And it just shows that, by talking about yourself, you talking about lived experience and how you've come out of it. And I think that also helps them to feel comfortable to talk, to trust, to have that relationship with you in the group as well. That's really, really great. And may I ask, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen throughout with your support group in members and how they've changed in a support group?
I think it's phenomenal. There are those long-term ones who've been with me for since I started, which is a good 2 or 3 years. And by this stage, they support one another. So you've just got like a backer buddy kind of feeling. And if you're really struggling, then so-and-so might reach out to you during the week and say, how are you doing? And do you want to talk? And it's just, people say, therapy is essential. I'm a fierce advocate for therapy. But they have said that joining a support group has almost been as important. Because they don't feel, they just feel a togetherness. They feel literally what the word means, support, to hold one another. It's one of those hashtag you're not alone, but hashtag you're not alone until you are with people who know what it is like, So, yeah.
And thank you for that. And like you said, that support is so important, knowing that you're not going to feel judged or you're not going to feel that,
Mm-mm.
that anxiety because it's like-minded people that are sitting and talking about things that they've experienced the similar or same situations. So thank you for that. And have you maybe seen or heard from your members? Have their partners or family members benefited from attending or learning about support groups? How can the family members or partners benefit?
Ah, sure, that's quite a complicated one. I think a lot of my support group members who never communicated with their partners
Mhm.
about it, or who always faced stigma in the family,
Mm.
slowly seem to develop a little bit more confidence. And
Okay.
I deserve to be heard. I don't need to be ashamed of this. It's my illness. I haven't chosen it. And actually, by the way, I'm trying really hard. And I think, as far as family members and loved ones, the important thing is to recognize that the person living with is trying. And
Mm.
it's not always the situation, but when they embark on therapeutic process and when they go to support group, you can recognize how hard that person is really trying because it's not easy. I think it's easy to become disappointed and angry with people struggling with mental illness when they
Mm.
don't meet what you think is the required improvement. And I
Mhm.
think being in support group, firstly, it encourages you to try harder, but it also encourages you to share more clearly with family. So we also do a lot of informative, it's not therapy, it's not group therapy, obviously, but I'll bring topics and we may discuss them. And for example, a topic might be, what does trying look like for you? And for some people, trying is, well, I got out of bed at the right time every day this week, and or I've been in bed for 3 days and today I got up and I sat outside for 10 minutes, or I've managed to hold a meeting that I hadn't. So it's, trying looks different, and
Mm.
it's a place where you are respected for whatever trying looks like. And so it empowers. And I think an empowered person is braver to speak about it, because people with mental illness are often minimized. Often people's bipolar have messed up quite considerably, considering that mania can be very disruptive.
Mm.
And we're allowed to forgive ourselves. We're allowed to try harder, and we're allowed to be forgiven and yeah, supported in that way.
Wow. Rihanna,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for those gems that you've just spoken about. And, like you talk about mental illness, having that it's support is so, so important. And you feel the trust and also that the energy around it's different. And as long as you're trying, like you said, that's so important. So thank you for
Mm.
that. And if I may ask, for someone that's maybe watching today who may be struggling with a bipolar disorder, but they feel hesitant to maybe to reach out or to talk about it, what would you like them to know about support groups?
Well, I think that is the key thing, is once again going back to the fact that people in your group are going to understand you and
Mm.
never judge you. In fact, one of the first things I say is, there is simply no judgment here. None. No matter how bad it was, no matter how bad it got. And that's why I self-disclose quite a bit, because I'm comfortable with my history. And it just sets people at ease. It's like, okay, fine, it can be that messy, but it can be this tidy. Um, and yeah, it's just a safe space. It really, really is. And there is no threat, because if you're not comfortable, I'm not going to push you to do or be anything other than yourself. And yeah, it's I've really never had anyone who has not been able to fit in, um, especially if they have a certain humility and desire for learning and improvement, and a desire and respect for others. I think that's the big thing.
That's the big thing.
And that is my group. They all respect each other profoundly. They all have time for each other, and that's the kind of, so you're safe, and it's such a good thing to talk. You cannot keep it inside because it's messy in your head.
Mm-hmm. Mariana, thank you so much for that. And to everyone that's listening as well. So like Mariana said, what a support group is all about and how you can feel safe. So to think about it, consider it, and don't, you're not alone. There's so much of help. There's so much of people that would really like to help you. So Mariana, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to end with?
Yeah, I just think people with bipolar mood disorder have an incredible capacity for growth, for personal growth. Anyone does. But once you're faced with that kind of challenge, if you take it on and you explore and you grow, you have an immense capacity for empathy and understanding others. You do have to embrace it and commit to the work, but it's so worth it in the long run. And joining a support group is your way to not feel alone, to be really held and understood. And yeah, I appreciate and honor every single person who has ever joined a support group. And I'd like to encourage anyone struggling, reach out, give it a try. You have nothing to lose.
Mariana, thank you so much for those wonderful words. And we appreciate having you with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anita. Take care.
Okay.